This is your grandma, Steele, talking, or your great-grandma, whoever's listening to me. I'd sure like to, I'd just love to see all of you, but I just can't, so this is the next best thing to seeing you. You can see me anyway, but I can't see you. But you can see me, and I want to tell you a few things about my life. There's so many things that is so different from your life than what mine was when I was a little girl. We never had the things that we have nowadays. We didn't have television, we didn't have radio, we didn't have inside toilets, and we didn't have anything that's of convenience like we have nowadays. And all these things that you children have that we didn't have. But we made good and we loved our life. I had a real happy childhood. I was a ninth child that was born from William Franklin Butler and Mary Hancock Butler. Let's see. We were from pioneer stock. There's so many things that I have on record that all of you can have if you just, someday you might want them. If you do, we'll try to get them to you, if I'm still alive. I'm a descendant from the Hancock that signed the independence. What's his name? John Hancock? He's a great-great-great-great-grandfather of mine. So you see, you're all related to him. We have your relatives all come over on the plains and settled in Utah. And then your grandpa Butler was sent to Arizona to settle Arizona, help settle Arizona. It was right after the Indians were so bad. But your grandfather, great-grandfather, was a great man. He loved the Indians, he loved everybody. And he wouldn't carry a gun, no matter where he went. Everybody carried guns, but he didn't. He said, if I have to shoot somebody, I'd rather they'd shoot me. He didn't want to kill anybody. All my brothers and sisters was born in, most of them they were all born in Arizona, 2 of them in Taylor. And we were all born in Hubbard, Arizona. And I went to Hubbard School until I was just a young tyke, and then I think about 4th grade, and then they consolidated with Thatcher. Then I went to Thatcher School. And that's where Lester and I both went to school, and that's where we graduated from. Both of us left school when we was in the 10th grade. And Uncle Lester come to California, and Mother and I stayed in Thatcher. Well, before we went to Thatcher, we lived in Central with my sister and her brother, her husband. And we lived there for maybe 3 years. Then we moved to Thatcher. Then after we left Thatcher, we went to, we come to California. We come to Hawthorne, California. And I, to this day, remember the address and everything because that's the first time I was married. We settled at 744 Freeman Avenue in Hawthorne. And Uncle Lester, he was working with my aunt and uncle family, and they were all plasters, and he was a hod carrier, plaster. And he made pretty good money. In the meantime, Uncle Joe had already gotten married. He married Julia Norton, and they had 2 girls. And then Uncle Lester, there was Aunt Sadie and Uncle Vic, and then Aunt Amy and Uncle Art, and Uncle Will and Aunt May. I guess Aunt May must be over 100 now, but she's still alive. And but the only one of them that they're all dead except my brother Joe. Of course, Aunt May's still alive, but she's my sister-in-law. But I'm talking about brothers and sisters. The only one that's left is me and Uncle Joe. And we've been in touch with each other for the last 3 or 4 years. We're trying to keep track of each other, which all families should do. They should love one another and always try to stay together as much as they can. After we come to California and we settled on Freeman Avenue in Hawthorne, I met and married Jack Rust, your father and your grandfather. And we had 2, 3, 4 beautiful girls from this marriage. And one day he liked to hunt a lot. He was a great carpenter, and he built us a home in El Monte. And we went hunting. He went hunting. While he was hunting, he was killed with lightning up in the high Sierra Mountains while he was deer hunting. Well, I had never worked out in my life. I didn't know what it was to get a job anywhere because my husband didn't want me to work, and I stayed home and raised my family and children and took care of the home. So after he died, I didn't know what I was going to do to make a living. And I was really upset about it because I had never worked out, and I didn't know how to even go out and find a job or what kind of job I should find. So I prayed about it. And my prayers was answered because I got a job the very next day. This man come to my door and asked me if I needed work. And he said he had put me all my work in my backyard, pouring ceramics and making ceramics. So I did that for about 4 or 5 years. At one time I had 4 or 5 people working for me. So I made pretty good money. This was real good. And while I was doing this, I decided I'd start going out and see if I could meet a husband, so I could have a husband for my family, my girls. I have 4 girls. And so I went to a dance one night and I met and married Ray Steele. Well, I met him and then we was married later, and about 6 months later we were married in Phoenix. And in this marriage we had a son. 5 years later we had a boy named Clifford. Of course I was real excited because I finally got my boy. After 4 girls, you know, you can really be happy when you get a boy. And we had, well, boy, this is a long story, I'll tell you. Oh, it's a sad story that I've had in my life. But anyway, we were married quite some time when we went to the temple, was married in the temple, and he joined the church, and we were married in the temple. And then, much later, probably 5 or 6 years later, he died of a heart attack. Saddened me very much. But Clifford had already gotten married and was left home, and all the girls were married. So I was left alone again. And Jackie, she came over because she had had a lot of health problems. Her husband left her, and she was alone. So she came over and said, "Mommy, come and live with me. We're both alone, and there ain't no use in us both being unhappy. Let's live together." So I said, okay. So I sold my home and went in and lived with Jackie. And Jackie was sick all the time, but she was a hard-working little girl, and she just kept on and kept going. she'd go to work and then she'd come home and go to bed. But she was sick because she had to go to the hospital, and she had cancer, and they had to put colostomy bags on her, both of them, 2 bags. So she had to live with that. It was very awful hard for her, but she was a good girl. She took it. I took care of her, tried to keep all the house up, and I made her meals and everything. And I was so glad I'd moved over there that I could help her. But finally one day, I got word that somebody called me and told me that Norma Lee had died. And I couldn't believe it. I know she hadn't been feeling good, but she said, but anyway, she died, and I couldn't hardly bear it. What am I going to say? So, then Jackie had been feeling real sick. So I finally got her. She went to a doctor, and he told her she had cancer, that it had spread, and had gone to her brain. And he told her she wouldn't live very long, but she would, if she had anything to do it and see all she could see, because she wouldn't be on this earth very long. She'd be gone. She came home from the doctors and they told me about this, and oh, what a horrible thing it was for me to face. But she said, Mama, don't worry about it. I'm not worried. I've had 50 good years on this earth. I'm not going to worry about it. Why should you? So don't you cry. So for her being so brave, I tried to be brave. So we had just buried Norma Lee, and when she found this out. But anyway, she wanted to get her stuff all settled so that she could be prepared to leave and go. So she went to the bank, she fixed up everything for her boys, the home and what money she had. And she had an insurance policy, and she turned that over to me to help me, because I put quite a bit of money in her building when I went over there to build me a little place to live. So then Marva Jean came, and of course she was right with her every minute. Bless that Marva Jean, just can't tell you how much I love you for what you did for her. You were so good to her. You took her home with you and took care of her until she died. I couldn't be there. I had to move away. So Jackie says, Mama, call Clifford. You need him now. Tell him that you find you a place out there, something to live where you can be with him. So I did. And of course Clifford got right on it, and he found a place for him to live, and I told him that I would buy his trailer if he could find something bigger, because his trailer was too small for him and his family. Anyway, finally we got everything together and moved everything out here. My home teacher was such a blessing. He came to my rescue, and he took care of everything, him and the bishopric. And they loaded everything in the he worked for the Deseret Industries. And he had a Deseret Industry truck, and he brought all my stuff out here. It's about over 500 miles, I think. But he brought it all out here, and Clifford, in the meantime, found him a place and moved in to this newer trailer. And the larger trailer is just very nice. And I moved into his, and I love my little trailer. It's just right for me. I can't even keep the work upon it the way I feel now, but it's just right for me. I wouldn't want anything bigger or fancy or anything. I just love it the way it is. So I'm happy here. Now, kids, I want you to all gather around me here. I want you, is it up yet, Clifford? I want you to gather around the television because Grandma wants to tell you some of those stories I did when I was a little girl. I had an old doll that was the only doll I had to remember in all of my life. It had a tin head, and it was stuffed with sawdust, and it was the most sweetest doll in the world. I loved that doll. I cared for it just like it was a baby. And I played house with it all the time, and I always had a girlfriend who lived close by, and we played together all the time. And we'd build a playhouse out, which we couldn't build, you know. We just mark off on the dirt, and we'd have bedrooms in the front rooms, and we'd take old boxes and tin cans and whatnot and make a home out of it. And we just played all the time like that. And one time Nina Allen was over there playing. She brought her crochet hook with her. Her grandma'd give her. And her grandma told her to take real good care of that crochet hook. Don't lose it. And so Nina said, oh, she wouldn't lose it for anything. So when she went to go home, I said, oh, Nina, let me keep the crochet hook and crochet with it. She was learning me the how to crochet. And so she said, okay, if you promise you won't lose it. And I said, well, I won't lose it. So I was crocheting away, and I dropped the crochet hook. And I looked for it, and I looked for it. I looked for it for an hour, and I couldn't find it. And I found the broom, and I swept around and everything, trying to find the crochet hook. And I couldn't find it, and I was just sick. And so my mother always told me to pray when I needed help. And I thought, boy, I sure need help now. And so I decided to kneel down and pray. So I did, kneel down and prayed and asked the Lord to please help me find the crochet hook. And when I opened my eyes and looked down, the crochet hook was right on the ground in front of me. Just as pretty as you please. And boy, that sure did do me a world of good to know that when you need to pray for something, pray for it and ask the Lord to help you, and He will. And another time, I used to have girlfriends that lived about a mile from us called Lois and Avis Howard. And we used to try to find things to do, you know, to entertain ourselves. So we decided that we'd make a post office. So we went out between our house and their house. It was all kind of desert-like. And you'd have to run from one mesquite to the other to get in the shade to keep from burning your feet off, because your feet was barefooted. You couldn't afford to have shoes. The shoes that we did have was for Sunday. So anyway, we went to built us a post office and dug a hole in the ground. And then we would go eat every day at a certain time and bring something. She would come at a certain time, her and Avis would come at a certain time, and they'd bring something and bury it in the hole and go home. And then I'd go at a certain time and get my mail, get what they put in there, and then I'd put something in the place of it, and they'd come and dig theirs up. And that was what we called post office. So we just loved to play it. But one day I went over to get it, and they had put a sandwich in there with jelly on it. And I opened up the hole and dug this out, and here it was. Full of ants all over, God's ants. And So that was kind of the end of our post office deal. We didn't have no more post office. But one time we were, Nina Allen and I, the little girl that had the crochet hook, we were down at the river. The river was real heavy with water. It was just flooding terrible. And it was fun to go down there and just look at it because it just swift and deep. And Avis and I went down to see it, and Avis was kind of daring, and she fell off into the river, and she couldn't swim. And I guess I was about 7, and she was about the same age. And I grabbed so scared, I just didn't know what to do. She kept screaming, "I can't swim, I'm going to drown." And I seen this great big long stick there on the bank, and I grabbed that, and I threw one end of it out to her, and I said, "Avis, grab this." And Avis grabbed Nina grabbed a hold of it, and she pulled herself in, and we went home. She was soaking wet, of course, and her grandma said, "What in the world happened to you?" And of course we told her the story, and I said I prayed because I was running up bank hollering for a Heavenly Father, please help us. Please help us. And Nina's grandma says, "No, now we've got to pray to Heavenly Father and thank Him for saving your life and being a part of saving your life." There's so many other stories I could tell you kids, but I'm not going to do it. I want you all around the television now. Are you there? Adam, are you there? I want to tell you about when I was a girl, I had to learn a lot of poems. And I learned them, and I never forgot them. You know, now I forget everything. I can't remember where I put anything or anything, but I never forgot these poems. So I want to leave them with you so you can remember that when you get old, maybe you'll remember as good as Grandma about the things that happened when you were a child. When I was about 11 years old, I was 12, I learned this. What's that? Okay? I learned this poem. It really is a song, but your grandma can't sing no more. Her voice is absolutely worthless. So I'm going to just give it to you like a poem. It is called Little Blossom. Oh dear, I'm so tired and lonesome. I wonder why Mommy don't come. She told me to close up my pretty blue eyes, and before I'd wake up, she'd be home. I guess she's gone down to see Grandma, who lives by the river so bright. And I guess that my Mommy's fell in there, and perhaps she won't be home tonight. God lighted His lamps up in heaven. I see them all twinkling and bright. But I guess that I'm afraid to stay up here without any fire or light. I guess I'll go down and find Papa. Perhaps he has stopped at the store. It's a great, pretty store full of bottles, and I wish he wouldn't go there no more. Sometimes he's sick when he comes home. He stumbles and he falls up the stairs. And once he came into the parlor and he kicked at my poor little chair. And Mommy was all pale and frightened, and she hugged me up close to her breast. And she called me her sweet little blossom. And I guess I've forgotten the rest. But I loved him, and I guess I'll go find him. Perhaps he'll come home pretty soon. Then it won't be dark and lonesome, waiting for Mama to come. So out in the dark went the baby, her little heart throbbing with fear, until her tired feet reached the grim palace, all radiant with music and cheer. Her tiny hands pushed the door open. Her touch was as light as her breath. Her little feet entered the palace that leads but to ruin and death. "Oh, Daddy," she cried as she reached him. Her voice rippled out sweet and clear. "I knew if I'd come I would find you, and I'm so glad I am here. The lights are so pretty, dear Papa, and I think the music's so sweet. But I think it's most supper time, Papa, 'cause Blossom wants something to eat. A moment the glare eyes gazed wildly down into her face, sweet and fair. And then as the demon possessed him, he grabbed for the back of a chair. A moment, a second was over. The warmth of his life was complete. And poor little innocent Blossom lay quivering and crushed at his feet. And as quick as the light came his reason and showed him the deed he had done. With a groan that the devil might pity, he knelt by the quivering farm. He pressed the pale face to his bosom, and he lifted the fair golden head. A moment the baby's lips trembled, and poor little Blossom was dead. Then in came the law of majesty, and says he, for your life you must pay. For none but a fiend or a madman could murder a child in that way. The man that had sold him the poison had made him a demon of hell. And now he must be honored and respected because he had a license to sell. Now, when I was about a year later, I had to recite a poem for Mutual. And Aunt Sadie found this poem for me, and I learned it, and she made me say it over and over and over and over, and she made me say it until I could get some emphasis in it. She said, don't just stand there and talk. Say it the way you're supposed to say it. And so it really helped me about these things. Anyway, I'm going to give this poem to you. I don't know what the name of it is, but she stood at the crowded crossing, a woman crippled and old, whose thin and faded garments a pitiful story told. On her arm a basket of apples that no one cared to buy. I must sell them or go hungry, she said with a weary sigh. She paused at the curbstone, fearing to trust herself in the tide of life that was coming and going. Dear me, it seemed so wide. And so many horses and wagons, I know I'll get scared, she said. And if I get hurt, she said with a shiver, I'd a good deal better be dead. See that crippled woman, Tommy, she's afraid to cross the road, cried a boy who was going schoolward to a friend he chanced to meet. She'll get scared and she'll drop her basket and she'll be no end of fun. Hurry up, old woman, grab your apple cart and run. Hush, said the other sternly, and he went to the woman's side. If you want to cross, I'll help you. And he went to the woman's side. If you want to cross, I'll help you if you'll trust me for a guide. Let me carry your basket for you. Don't fear, but keep close to me, and we'll soon be over safely, he told her cheerily. With someone to guide her footsteps, the crossing was quickly made. I knew I could trust you, she told him, and wouldn't be afraid. God bless you for your kindness to a poor old thing like me. And if I knew your mother, I'd tell her how proud she ought to be. Such men are the ones to trust in, or the men that must be had. For the father of the true man is a true and a manly lad. That's it. Oh, just a minute, I gotta show my cat. Come here, kitty. I can't get him. Oh, nice kitty. Isn't this the sweetest cat? Now, he was so nice to me when I... Look at that. That's a sweet kitty, yes it is. He is a sweet kitty. He loves me to death. But him and I live all by ourselves, but we talk, don't we? Yes, we do. We talk. Okay. Okay. I hope you guys can come and see me sometime. I'd sure love to have you pop in like Rick did. I'm sure happy, Rick, when you came, and I'm sorry I didn't know you. Is that it?